Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining the Release Notes webinar for the NetSuite version 2019.1. My name is Anna Lipiec, and I will present for you today the admin-related features. Before we start, I have two little requests for you. So if you could please mute your microphone during the feature presentation, just to avoid any background noises. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat window, and we will try to answer them after the feature demonstration, or if not, then in the follow-up email. So today, for today's agenda, I picked up a few points that I found interesting, and I think it would be good maybe to give you a brief summary. Everyone, all the NetSuite users, they have access to the release notes. They have access to the test environment already a while before the new release is live. But yeah, usually it's quite a long document. Not everyone has time to look into it. So we thought it will be helpful if we just pick up certain things and show you briefly what it does, what the new functionality is about. So yeah, you can maybe look at this further later on or ask us some questions, but at least you know what is going on and what is new. So for today, we have the following points. We have the core administration permission feature. We have the new subsidiary restriction for roles that are now done a bit nicer, more intuitive, in a better way. We have the possibility of copying custom record to another NetSuite account, which is quite interesting, especially for NetSuite administrators and for people who are customizing the system. We have account-specific domains. That is also something very new in this new release. And then we're going to go through the SuiteApprovals 3.0. So the core administration permission feature, what it does basically, it reduces the need to use the standard administrator role in the system. So what we noticed a lot with customers, it's the administrator role is used too much because other roles, they don't have those specific exclusive to the administrator privileges. So this new core administration feature allows now to customize any role and make it to behave like the administrator role basically, while in the same time still restricting access to the certain areas of NetSuite. So for example, with the core administration permission, you can give the role of system administrator the specific access, and this administrator is responsible, for example, for the general system administration, but you would like to still limit his access and don't show, for example, some sensitive employee information. So this is what this new feature can be used for. And I will quickly show you how this will look like in NetSuite in the system. So in order to use this new core administration feature, you need to first enable it by going to the Setup Company, Enable Features. And here in the first tab, in the Company tab, if we scroll down, then you can see here in the Access section, we have a checkbox that is called Core Administration Permission. So if we check this box and save, then the feature becomes available in our account. Once the feature is enabled, we can go and edit any of the existing roles or customize the role in the system. So I will go now and edit a custom role that already exists. And you can now see that we have this additional checkbox on the role setup that is called Core Administration Permission. So if we check this box, then this role will still be restricted by the permission list of permissions and access levels that we set on this role, but it will have those exclusive administrator privileges that are required for certain things. So we just save this role, and this role will now have the privileges. In connection to this new feature, to this core administration feature, the full access role in NetSuite will be deprecated. So now at the moment you cannot assign this role anymore to any new users, and the users that are currently using the full access role, they will be receiving now notifications about this change, so they will need to get some new roles assigned, because the full access role will not exist anymore from this release. So the second point in the agenda is the new subsidiary restriction for the roles. And this functionality before, in the role setup, it was a bit unclear how to restrict access to a user's subsidiary. And also it wasn't possible to easily grant access for the user to only active subsidiaries. So if, for example, we were deactivating certain subsidiaries, it was really difficult to see if users can still access them, yes or no. So this now changed, and the way how you restrict roles to the specific subsidiaries is really more intuitive. And I will show you now how this looks in the system. So again, to be able to use this new way of restricting subsidiaries on the role, we have to enable it in the general preferences. So we have to go to Setup, Company, General Preferences. And if we scroll a bit down, we have the checkbox here that is called Enable Legacy Subsidiary Restrictions. So we have to check this box to be able to use the new functionality and the new way of restricting roles to the specific subsidiaries. So once the feature is enabled, again I will go and open a role in the system. So you can see now in the role we have a special section that is called Subsidiary Restrictions, and we have a few options available here. So we can select all subsidiaries if we want to grant the role access to all subsidiaries, including the inactive ones. We can select the option Active, which will give the role access to all active subsidiaries in the account. We can select User Subsidiary. This one will restrict the role access to only user subsidiaries, so the subsidiary is set up on the employee record, and when the user will log in with this role, they can only access their own subsidiaries and records related with their own subsidiary. And we also have options selected. If we check this option, then we have a list of subsidiaries here, and we can select one or multiple subsidiaries that the role will have access to. The allow cross-subsidiary record viewing, yeah, this is something what existed already before, so you can still allow this role to view records belonging to another subsidiary, but not being able to edit them and make changes. Okay, the next feature is a possibility to copy custom record to another NetSuite account. This is quite interesting because before, in a way how it used to work, installing a customization to another account always required Suite script or Suite Cloud Development Framework experience. So when some development was done, you always needed to create a bundle out of it, control the versions, lots of settings in the bundles, make them available for certain accounts. So it was quite a process to be able to do it. So usually it was only done by people really with experience, with the coding experience, Suite script or Suite Cloud Development Network. At the moment, the way how NetSuite enables to copy customizations to different accounts, it really allows users with very limited programming knowledge to copy custom record or any other custom field, custom list to another account that they have access to, that they have admin access to, and that they maintain. So let me show you. Quickly how this works. To use the feature, again, we have to enable it. So we have to go to Setup Company Enable Features. And in the Suite Cloud tab, if we scroll down, we have an option on the very bottom, Copy to Account. Beta. It's still beta because it's still in the development phase, so it's still being tested. That's why at the moment it's only available as a beta. But once we enable it and save, then we will be able to use the functionality. So with this copy to account feature, it's now possible to deploy a custom record or any other custom object in NetSuite with really like a point and click NetSuite interface. It's only available again in the accounts where you have administrator access to. And I will show you now how this works. So if I go and open any existing custom record, custom field, I will just go to the field that I already created before to not spend too much time at the moment. So I will open the existing custom field. We can see that it's the entity field and of the type list record. So it's a list of possible values of the display colors. And what we can see now, this all looks like it always looked. It's a custom field. But what we can see additionally here, we have option to copy to account. So if we click this, we now can select the target account, so the account where we want to move this customization to. If we click to the drop down, we will see all the accounts that we have admin access to. But another requirement is that the feature that we just enabled here needs to also be enabled in the target account. So that's why I have lots of options here, but I only can select this account because this is the one where I enabled the feature as well. So we can copy it to this account. We have to give it a name, so the deployment audit trial name. Let's say display info, and we can go to the next page. On the next page, NetSuite will show us all dependencies that this record has. So, for example, this was the field that was a field based on the list, so it's connected with the actual list of values to select from. That's why this custom list will also be copied together with the field. So we can see here all the dependent records. So if we agree, if we are aware that everything what is shown here will be moved to the other account, and then we can click on the next. Yeah, so we can see here that the preview is complete, so everything, so NetSuite in the meantime checked the accounts, everything was successful, so we can click on the deploy button now. And now we click done. And the custom field is copied to the other account, just to show you this, that it's working, and also how to see it and how to check the audit trial in the other account. I will quickly move to the other account. So in this target account, first of all, if we want to see the log of the deployment, then we can go to customizations, quit cloud development, and we have here option deployment audit trial. We can click on this. We can see all the deployments. We can see that the one on the top, display info, is the one that I've just done now. And what you can do, you can download your log. And you can see the details of every step, of every validation that happened. And we can now also go to the list of custom entity fields and see if the field was indeed copied to that account. Yeah, so we can see that the field is here, and it's the list record based on the list display colors. So we can see that both records were copied into this account. So custom field and also custom list that the field is based on. Yeah, so as you can see, it's really a simple way of quickly move the customizations, like certain custom fields, custom records that are created can be moved right away without any technical background really. I will switch back to the other account. So another point that I want to mention very quickly, shortly, is the account-specific domains. So as you know, previously in NetSuite, when we logged into the system, we all used the same domain basically. So it was system.netsuite.com. So from this release on, it changed. So what it resolves the limitation to be logged to only one NetSuite account at the same time. So at the moment, up to this release, it wasn't possible to log into NetSuite and to Sandbox at the same time, because once you log into Sandbox, you are kicked out of the NetSuite production account. And with this new feature, this will be possible, so you can log into two accounts at the same time. You can start and maintain active sessions in production and in Sandbox accounts at the same time. So there is not much to show here. I will just show you because this account, the demo account that I'm using now, it's on the new release already. So you can see here in the browser that the domain indeed contains NetSuite account ID first. So I cannot demonstrate you that we can switch now between this account and Sandbox, because I don't have Sandbox belonging to that account. But if you are using your production account and your Sandbox account, then you should be able to just log into your different role in Sandbox, open it in the new tab, and both sessions should remain active at the same time. Yeah, and another point that is a bit. I will show you this a bit more extensive. I think it's very nice, interesting feature, nice improvements on the side of the SuiteApprovals. So the approval flows for different transaction records in NetSuite. It's called SuiteApprovals 3.0. And it includes some improvements in the functionality and some new features. So in general, the SuiteApprovals enables you to set up employee records, set up general amount limits, and determine if transaction record will go through the approval process or not. You are able to choose if you want to route records through the hierarchical approval set up on the employee records, or you want to build like custom approval rules. So in the SuiteApprovals version 3.0, there are some enhancements, and one of them it supports currently vendor bills and purchase orders record types. Before it was only journals and engineering change orders. At the moment it's also vendor bills and purchase orders. Then we have a new feature of super approval. So I will show you this briefly. Super approval feature allows to set up a certain employee as a super approver for the certain record type. So even if the people or users from the standard approval hierarchy are not available, then you can always overrule it and go to the super approver and approve transactions in case something is really urgent and you cannot wait. Then we have also options to skip approval, so we can build like a long approval flow with different levels, but we have also possibility in certain cases to skip approval and go directly to the first level that is reaching the limit of the transaction. And the functionality supports multi-language, so it's available in multiple languages. So let me show you a bit of a demo on how this SuiteApproval 3.0 works. First of all, what you need to do to make this work, you need to install a bundle. This is a Suite bundle. I've done it already before, so you have to go to Customization, Suite Bundler, Search and Install Bundles. I will already go to the list because I've installed it before. It usually takes some time, so I didn't want to waste time at the moment. But the bundle that you need to find is called SuiteApprovals. The ID is 203059, and it's a public bundle, so it's available for all NetSuite accounts. So the bundle needs to be installed in the system. Then there are also few additional things that you need to make sure are enabled. One of them, if we go to Setup Company Enable Features, and if we open the Employee tabs, there is this option Approval Routing, and this one needs to be enabled for the approval flow to function. And another thing, in the Suite Cloud, we also need to enable the Suite Flow feature to be able to use workflows in general. And once those are enabled, additional thing to do is to go to the Setup Accounting Preferences. And here in the Approval Routing tab, we can select which record types we want to enable for the approval flow. So at the moment I selected purchase orders, vendor bills and journal entries, but you also have here expense reports, vendor payments, invoices. So you select for which record types you want the approval flow to be enabled. Once this is done, there are few things that we can set up. So first of all, there are certain things that we set up on the employee records. So if I go to the employees and I select an employee, I edit, and if I go to the Human Resources tab, we can see certain things here that were already available before. So we have this section with expense and purchasing, where we can set expense limits, expense approvers, expense approval limits, the same for purchasing, so for purchase orders. But we also have now additional sub-tab here on the right side, approval information. And in this tab, we have additional fields available. So we can now set up the same things also for journal entries and for vendor bills, for example. This was not possible before. So for the journal entry, we can set up the specific person that will be now approver for that employee. We can only select here the employees that have actually access to NetSuite. If you don't grant access, then you cannot select the person as approver. So you can select journal approval limit, journal entry limit, the same for the vendor bill. So it's exactly how the standard functionality used to work for the expense report and for purchase orders, only now extended to journal entries and vendor bills. So we can save the employee record. And now in the new flow, in the approval rules that I will show you in a moment how to set, we can use the hierarchy that we set on the employee record. So we can use those limits, supervisors, and the approvers. But we can also use additional things. So for example, we can set the approval that will be based on the role or on the group or on the department. So on the role, we can simply select the role that we want to use at the certain level. So for example, the CEO role, someone needs to have the CEO role to be able to approve. But we can also set up groups. And people from this group will be able to approve at a certain level. So probably you all know how to set the groups. This is standard NetSuite functionality, but I will quickly go through this just in case. So we have list, relationship, groups, and we can create a new group. It can be, of course, dynamic based on the safe search criteria. It can be static. I will now do simple static group of employees, just to show you further that we can use it when building the approval rules. So let's call it journal approvers. I simply select few people in it. And save the group. So group is one thing, and the other thing that is quite new and also available now is if we go to setup to workflow manager, we have option to set up department approver. So what we can do, we can per department set up approvers and then also use this when building the approval rules. So I have one here set up For the finance, we can set up new department approver. And for example, I select supply chain, the subsidiary, and the person who would be approver for that department. And I save the record. Now, when we have information saved already on the employees' records, we have groups created and department approvers, then we can go and start creating the approval rules. So if we go to Setup, Workflow Manager and Approval Rule List, from here we can create our approval rule. So if we click the button New Approval Rule, we have two options available here. So first is use the new approval rule page. So this is use the default routing using employee hierarchy. So if we select this option, the limits and the settings on the employee record will apply. And if we select the second option, it's for building like really custom rules, and the interface is also a bit different. This is more like the assistant. So you go to the steps, and here the interface is slightly different. You can just try both of them. I will click the first one because from there I still can change to the custom one. So I will show you both options. Yeah, so this is the screen for the new approval rule. Still loading. Yeah, we give the name to our rule. So let's say I will call it Journal Approval Rule. We select the record that we want to build the approval for. So we have here we have records available that we enabled before as the ones we want to use approval flows for. We need to set the start date, which defaults to today, and the end date. So I will just put it as in the end of the year. We select subsidiaries, so we create rules per subsidiaries. We can also base it on the safe search condition. So if we don't want all the records to fall into this flow, into this rule, but only specific ones, then of course we can use the custom safe search as a condition. And we can set up priority here. So priority will define which rule will be looked at first. Yeah. So the highest priority is 1. So I will just set 1 in here. But if you have few different rules and you want that one to be looked at first, and then the other it's like prioritize a bit less, then you can use the priorities to set up how the system will pick them up. And then the options here in the approval routing. Yeah, so again, as I said, like we can still change this here. So we have the first option, use standard employee hierarchy. This means that those records, those journal entries will go through the approval flow based on the settings on the employee record. Or we can click the second option where it says define custom approval chain. And here we have few options available. So we can say, yeah, employee supervisor, specific approver, so we can select the specific person from the list of employees. Or we can select the department approver. So this is exactly what we set up just before, but to use this you have to make sure that you set the approvers for each department, because you cannot select anything here anymore. It will just use the settings from the department approver setup. So for every department you select the person who will be approver, and then if we say here use department approver, then this logic will be in place. We can also set approval limit in here, add the level, and then create additional one. Yeah. So additional options are groups and roles. So role will be just selecting a specific role that will be able to approve, and groups, yeah, as I said, you can select all the groups that are created, all the employee groups, and you can set them as this approval level, also with a limit if applicable. Yeah. So for example, 2000 will be the limit here, and it will be group. So for the groups and roles, we have two options available, any and all. So what it means, if we say any, then it means that any member of that group or any person that has a specific role can approve it. And if we say group all, then it means that every single member of that group needs to approve that record. So that's the difference between group and the role. Then additional options available, it's here as default. This box is checked, route approvals based on amount, but we can also uncheck this box. So now all the other options are not available anymore, and the amounts disappeared here. So at this moment we have the approval based on department and the group, but it's not dependent on the amount of the transaction. So that's also possible to completely switch off the amounts, and then of course everything what's set up on the employee record is not applicable anymore. You cannot use standard employee hierarchy because you don't look at the amount at all. You just set up different rules for those approvals. And another option here that we have, so for now we have selected all levels of approval, then it means that the record will go through every single level of approval that we set in this rule. But if we select one level of approval based on approver's approval limit, this is what in the beginning I was showing you as it was called skip the approval. So what it means, if we select this option, then the system will not go through all the approval levels, so you don't need to have every single approval for that record, but it will skip the approval and it will go directly to the level where the approval limit is enough to approve that record. So for example, in this setting, if we have 1000 and 2000 and there is a transaction that will be 1500 and we say just one level of approval, then the system will directly send it to the second level, to the group, so to the people that are able to approve that the transaction is in their limit of approval. So the first level will be skipped. Yeah, so this is the functionality called skip approval. Yeah, so those are the options basically. Then we can save the rule. We can create multiple rules for the same record type. And yeah, what I will show you still quickly, I will go back to the employee record because there are two additional things worth mentioning. I will edit the record. I will scroll down again to the Human Resources tab. And to the approval information. And what we have here, the last option, record type to approve and finalize, this is what's called super approval. So if we set on that employee, for example, the journal entry is the transaction that they can approve and finalize, it means that they are set as super approvers for the journal entry. So every time when the approval process is stuck because people are not available, the standard approvers are not able to approve at the moment, and something is very urgent, then we know that this person that is set here as to approve and finalize, so as a super approver, can always approve that type of a record. We can also select multiple values here. So for example, this means that that person can always approve journal entry and purchase order. So in that way, we can overrule the standard flow in case of emergencies. And another thing that is also new that we can set on the employee record is the approval delegation. So in this tab, if the employee is, for example, leaving for holiday, you can check the box delegate approval. You can select who to delegate it to. Start date, so for example, next week someone is not available. Oops. So we say delegate approval to that specific person during this week, so between the 22nd and 28th of April. And we just save the employee record. Yeah, so this is basically what I wanted to show you. I think the approval flow is quite interesting, nice new features that the customers definitely will use. So this was my last point, actually, so I'm not sure, Bas, if you want to take over. Thank you, everyone.